that they bragged about how many people voted. Election numbers, all-time high, whatever it is. Because I can vote for a month. Whole month. And then you brag about it? This is like Obamacare. Look at all the people with health insurance. You forced me to buy it.
Of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Hey everyone, it's Dave here, December 1773. With me as always is Ryan, and this is The Weekly Show. Always remember, bottom right of the screen, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to be part of December Nation. And this is a pretty big episode. This is our first episode with the new president-elect Joe Biden. That's obviously the biggest news of the week. And I think some states are still technically counting votes or something. I don't know, but I think there's without question a lot more coming in this election story. I don't think it's over till it's over. I'll believe it when January 20th comes around. But Brian, what do you make of all this madness that just took place?
I will say politics being a blood sport, I think, is an underrepresentation of what it really is. And we are left with more questions than answers, especially on election day, which we are not used to. I wonder if anything like this has happened. I know people are referencing the Gore and Bush thing. I don't think it's the same thing.
No, like, and that was really just kind of one state for the most part. You know, that kind of came down to Florida. This is a lot of different states that are in play.
Yeah, what time was it? 7 states or 5 states were in play still, swing states? And there's only 10 swing states, so half the swing states are coming down to, within 1,000th of a vote, which puts it in the less than 1% margin of error, or, and that's, I don't know what state it is, but they're going to do an automatic recount. I believe it's Wisconsin. And it's just because the numbers are so close that it's just kind of what they do, But that's kind of what I mean, like the more questions than answers, which kind of really sucks. But it's amazing how polite Democrats can act when they get what they finally want.
Well,
I didn't see any fires. I didn't see any.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought, because when we get to our headline segment, I got a headline for you.
Yeah, but it's just kind of one of those things. There's all these mass gatherings at the White House and stuff, and they're like, Trump's fired, and we'll see. Yeah, I guess we'll kind of get into the elephant in the room after the headlines, because this is obviously something that's going to get broke down a lot by different media and stuff. So, and we still don't know the answer, right? All we can really report and talk about is what's been kind of reported about. Yeah. And it kind of makes it, for something so monumental and so big, it makes it such a weird news week to try to summarize.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of places are trying to speculate and try to figure out what they think is going on. And you've taken the approach on a lot of previous episodes that we'll just kind of wait till the facts come out. So.
Yeah, and like the more important thing, right, is getting the truth, right? And obviously, those bigger budget companies have all the means to get the truth instantly. So, but even them with that ability, it leads, right? First is the way they got to print the headline before the fact. So, yeah, that's kind of our approach, just because we want to, talk about the truth. But there's no reason why we can't have a summary of that idea, and touch on it. We do it a lot with the police shootings in particular. We've done a lot of, and that's just basic because it takes time and investigation, and that's kind of what is going to exactly happen with this. The election, everything with this. I don't even know what to call that. This isn't an election. I'll tell you that much right now. This does not feel like an election. This feels like a power vacuum or something.
Does it almost feel like I don't want to use this word because maybe it's too aggressive, but does it feel like a coup?
It's probably the best way to describe it in some areas, right? But it's not really, right?
Right, right.
It'd be like the same energy as a coup, just not the same acts to get it accomplished or the same procedures to enforce it.
It's kind of like a non-violent coup.
Yeah. And, that was on the right, especially in different circles. That's always been circulated that the deep state obviously was a big talking point, even though the idea of a shadow government was a conspiracy for years. So let's not talk about that. And then mainstream media can brand the deep state and then run with it for 4 years, and that's fine. Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. I don't know. Once again, I don't know if this ever happened quite like this in American history. I actually went back. I was very curious. There's a lot of the Civil War talk brewing, which we can kind of discuss. I'm sure we'll interject it throughout this whole monologue. But so I went back to Civil War, the Electoral College during the Civil War, and it was a landslide for Lincoln. So if people are referencing Civil War and other things, I know we've discussed it before, but at least on paper, the Electoral College system, not true. If you look at the politics from that angle.
Yeah.
Which is a very one-sided thing. It's not obviously this deep historical dig, but, I'm not saying just because the Electoral College is so close that it's indicative of Civil War-esque behavior, because this is obviously historical in a lot of regards. So we need to stop comparing, modern history to the Civil War in particular, because it's not palatable, really.
No. Well, it's. I mean, just things in general now are a lot different than they were, 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, even 10 years ago. Things are just way, way different than they used to be. So it's tough comparison to make.
Yeah, I mean, even the people right now, for example, somebody that was born in 1920, right? They grew up with horses and they saw the spaceship. You know what I mean? Imagine, and that's just one facet of your life.
Yeah.
Of transportation. Yeah. But imagine, you saw trains get built. The Continental Railroad, when was that? Was that early? It was before the 19th century, but 20th century, I'm sorry. But still, it's that whole idea of 100 years is a long time and it's just everything's exploding.
Yeah.
So that's really my point. I think the idea of a Civil War is being romanticized because we have such a different context to look back on it.
Yeah, definitely.
So all the talk, we can simmer that. I think there's too much cool shit in the world for us to even worry about killing each other, and that's why I think cancel culture, outrage culture, snowflaking, all these terms that we've had developed over the last 2 presidents, in particular. I think that is, you could call that not our equivalent of a civil war, but like I said, there's so much that occupies our time. We don't have enough time to kill each other. So it's this is the way we go through our discourse when it's not good public discussion. We have cancel culture. We have the stuff with the college campuses and, BLM, Antifa, other riots, the movements against police brutalities, this dissidence, this continual resist. Remember, that was when Trump got elected, resist, and then impeachment, and then, all these things. This is we'll say the post-World War equivalents, I think. And that's why it becomes romanticized with being, I think it's easy to say that we're going to be into a civil war when it seems like everybody is arguing with everybody else,
Yeah. I don't know. Most people are stuck behind their keyboard or their phone screen to get anything remotely Civil War like.
Yeah, that's very true. And it goes a little step further. We're here at December Nation. We talk about, preach politics, man, preach religion and science and aliens and all the weird stuff that you're not, that has the voodoo of the society on you, and get it done. Why are we letting the news speak for us? We've given up public discourse and public discussion to the media. We've lost that power. We've lost I'm not saying we lost the freedom, because we have the freedom of speech, but speaking probably meant a lot more 100 years ago, because there wasn't narratives being portrayed the same way they are now. It's so easy to have a narrative picked up. It's things we've discussed. It's both sides do it. Both sides talk about how you can spin narratives out of discussions. Well, it's not that they're just craft a narrative to get us to go along with it, but they become our voice boxes. They echo the thoughts of parties now. They align with the parties, and then it's like the people. It's like we gravitate to the media, and then the media is representation of politicians. We've removed our power of public discourse because we allow media to speak for us.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a dangerous road to go down.
Yeah, especially, the censorship and other things. But, that's getting all over the place here. So we'll cut it back to your favorite segment of the show if you want. And then afterwards we can talk all the spaghetti of the election, I guess.
All right, spaghetti election. I'm in because it's time for headlines. I had pre-texted you, pre-show, to let you know I had a couple that were going to get you fired up. I think all of them are going to get you fired up, to be perfectly honest with you.
I'm going to try my best.
I'm going to try to make sure Brian doesn't smash his phone after hearing some of these. Speaking of coup, here's the first headline I got for you. Headlines. Trudeau promises military intervention if Trump refuses to leave office.
What, their Air Force? They don't even have a military.
No, that's what I was... the thing I was curious about was...
They don't even have a military, don't...
I was wondering if they were just going to use our military since, they don't have their own.
So what they're saying, this is the Mexico build the wall, just reverse with Canada providing a military. They're going to use the American military to say that they did something.
He's going to have to sublet it to a better nation.
Yeah, it's like when Trump built the wall. It's like, see, Mexico paid for it. But like, wait a minute.
Yeah, Trudeau, 2 words for you. Bring it.
Yeah, Molan Labe, my friend.
This is a good one. This I don't know if news anchors
don't even have a military, and
I don't know if news anchors can win Oscars, but this man's gonna get a nomination. Headlines. Van Jones breaks down crying after news of Biden reported election victory. He said during the Trump administration, people felt they couldn't breathe.
Do you think he wrote that?
The article?
Yeah, like what he read, what his monologue. You think he wrote that? Do you think that was like a scripted event, or you think that was all freestyled right then and there?
I don't know, man. I will say this: if he was acting, though, first of all, it's one of two things. Either give me a break, you know what I mean? Like, come on, really? You're gonna cry about that, or like, man, that's some strong acting because he cried for sure. And there's nothing wrong with men crying or anything. It's not what I'm saying. It's just it seemed a bit like an overreaction.
It's amazing to look through things like the eyes that you're trying to raise children. And I understand that. I know he referenced that in his monologue. The problem I have is when we speak about character and people of character and all this character, because that's what it came down to, right? This character, this idea that the better person won, the more moral of a person won. When all the media has done for 4 years is try to disprove how moral Donald Trump can be. They spent so much money and time and all these other things, and then at the end of it, on the other side of it, they're proud that they got a guy elected with character. Like they have this huge victory because morals won, while they acted immoral to get there. Isn't there an old saying? Like, there's 2 old sayings. They're in the Bible, right? We're not supposed to reference religion because it's not real, and God didn't make everything, but we don't look at it as learning, like ancient myths that we can learn truths from.
We don't look at it what it actually is.
Yeah,
it's a fictional tale of how to live, a moral and just life.
It's stories telling how humanity has always sucked. Like, really, like how much suffering is in ancient stories. Like there's so much. Because suffering is life. Like, people, we talk about it all the time. here as a society, we're trying to figure out how to make suffering suck less when we already have that. Like, mathematically, everything we have is better than what the people at the time of the Bible had. And it sounded like their life sucked way more. Like that's the reflection we should be looking at these tales from. Be like, wow, humans have come so far and still the same suffering. The idea of suffering. So how do you cope with suffering? And then you go to these things for morals. For these and back to what I was saying about the moral person winning. 2 wrongs don't make a right. And the golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. They acted so immoral. They invested so much time into making somebody seem immoral while being immoral, and then they talk about morals at the end of it. It's like, it's Orwellian. It's really an Orwellian way of like portraying a victory, portraying a thought, or winning for your team. Which I'm fine with you batting for the team and endorse all these celebrities, encouraging to vote, and all these other things. Great, that's fine. When you and I get our national campaign to make voting hard again, we'll get some movement there. But like, getting fine. If this is our system, getting people to vote, fine. That's great. But don't act like you have moral authority. When you've acted immoral for at least 4 years, you burn cities down in the name of resistance and using your privilege to like stand up against injustice against other people and act like you have some moral authority. The cancel culture, the censoring of these other media institutions on certain ideologies, it seems, or they're slated towards one side other than the other. But then they talk about a moral victory. The entire team batted against him. The whole thing immoral-like. It's Orwellian, man. Like, we've literally given up the keys to speak about our policies and our politicians. We're more worried about the media's interpretation of the law instead of what the actual law is interpreted to your life. Like, there's a term for what politicians write and lawyers read. It's called legalese. And that's when you get a speeding ticket. And if you ever look, I could get in a conspiracy about this, but I won't. If you look at all your legal documents, your name's all in capital letters on every piece of legal document you have. And that's because it's legalese. That's the way it's inputted in all these systems in banking and politicians. That's what they write. It's not reality. And that's why it's so important that we need to know the law so that we can interpret it to our reality. But we've removed that. And we've let these people dictate in this election cycle, at least in the last few days, because let's face it, Biden was just announced the president-elect suggested by the media. This isn't even like an officially counted government thing they're saying. They're just saying that he's projected to win based on the news's perception of the election cycle. So it's just like all these things we're giving up. Like all these little steps of like what it means to be like a educated civilian or like to have power civilly. We all feel dispowered, and it's because we've given up these little things, and then we bitch about injustice when we voluntarily have given it up because we're not educated enough to fight for the little things. We can't see through the Orwellian language. And then, sorry, I know I'm going all over, but it comes all back together that they can speak of morals and these things and speak how they have this great victory when they're still standing on the mound of ash that they were blaming the other side.
Yeah.
Like, it's the whole the grass is greener on the other side thing. And then when you get there, it's not really green. It just looked green or what. Like, you're painting this you're presenting a thought. And you're making us convinced that we have to believe it. I can't.
Yeah. Well, it's getting easier for the media to do that too, because now big tech is compliant, and I guess somewhat related, we're now on Parler. In case anyone wants to go follow us there, we are on Parler. Parler is supposed to be a more free speech. It's basically supposed to be an actual platform. It's basically supposed to be what Facebook really is claiming.
Yeah, until they California it, and then all of the liberals start flooding Parler because the other places suck. They do it to states. They're going to do it to social media apps.
Yeah,
so
but
Parler will be great for a few years until it starts blowing up with, liberty-oriented ideas. and then it's just going to get taken over. They're going to hijack that matrix, and then they're going to have these same things plugged in, these same systems. It's Groundhog Day. It's the gerbil. We're in the wheel, people.
Yeah, and we've seen it. We've seen it at our own YouTube page. When I don't know if we ever said this on the show, but like one of our recent videos, we weren't able to show it, and I couldn't do an appeal for an ad from Google because we were apparently interfering in New Zealand's election. In a video,
we have screenshots.
I can display screenshots. In a video where we literally didn't even talk about New Zealand, Google said, "Yeah, we can't run your ad because you're interfering in New Zealand's election." Well, hold on now. We didn't even talk about New Zealand. And sometimes you get these things. They're for like when you first submit these. I think they're originally checked by computers, and then oh man, it must have been a weird thing. I'll submit for an appeal, and then a person reviews it. Well, the person reviewed it. And he said, "Yeah, you're interfering in New Zealand's election. Sorry."
Yeah,
how do you combat that?
It's also incredible that they're saying there's election interference with something that's so easy as a YouTube channel that, quite frankly, doesn't have this broad scope reach.
Yeah, and let's not forget.
But then they tell us we have no election interference.
Right. But I was just going to say, let's not forget the fact that they're saying that there can't possibly be election interference. Not only after 4 years of claiming there was election interference, but you can't even run your video because they're saying it's election interference just for a simple YouTube video where you don't even mention the country's name.
Yeah, on a foreign government using the internet is election interference. They say it doesn't happen, which is also hilarious because it's from Google, right? And Google is the one that was putting out all this information that they're like, hey, look, the Russians interfered in our elections. Like, look, they actually did. Here's the proof and all this thing. And then that fed the politicians that Donald Trump worked with Russia. They painted the narrative out of the stuff the big tech gave them. Like, this is ridiculous. But you and I have sway over a New Zealand election, David.
I'm curious. I'm curious who I swayed the election for. I hope we did a good job. If you're in New Zealand and you like the person that was elected, you're welcome. We played a big role in it.
Let's hope they kept Hobbiton the way it was. Preserve Hobbiton at all costs. I have to go there in my life.
Here's another headline that's something you frequently talked about on the show over the last few episodes. Headlines. Biden tax hike would accelerate exodus from high-tax states, experts predict. It's almost like people don't want to have all their money stolen, so they'll go to a place where they can keep it.
And then you got that place dry with your same garbage thinking that brought you the hell that you fled to begin with. And then who do you blame?
It's the Republicans.
Racist Republicans.
Yeah, definitely.
When we're like, whoa, let's slow down on taxes. You're in bed with the rich.
Mm-hmm.
Rich to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I just want the opportunity to possibly be rich. I had this conversation yesterday with a good friend of mine. I told him that exact thing. I agree with the multinational corporations. I agree that these big tech companies and all these people don't pay income tax. Okay, it seems fishy. Let's look into it. Yeah, sure. Maybe there's an actual reason why they balance their losses and wins so that they break even. Once again, I've talked about this. They're supposed to, right? If you break even, you did everything right. Like if you owe taxes, that's a loss. Or wherever. I'm not a accountant, obviously. But yeah. So if there's loopholes, whatever. All this stuff, great. But when you start closing off some of those things, you clip the wings of like people trying to climb the ladder to be an Amazon or to be a Tesla or to be, these Microsoft, McDonald's, Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Or even, who knows what's coming, but maybe Parler's ability to be Facebook. You don't think there's going to be corporate push from Facebook to try and silence any companies that are going to be competing with them?
And I wonder if Facebook will use their ad revenue and their ad algorithms to help squash their competitor.
I wouldn't be shocked.
And you know what? You know what's real funny? Is since they already have a monopoly on the market and our politicians are going to make laws on things they don't really understand, because let's face it, they're not good lawyers to begin with, and they're definitely not IT experts. But we're going to hand the keys to these people that supposedly represent us, and then they're going to make laws. So a company like Parler that would be more pro-freedom, for example, now Parler just gets smushed because of maybe some law that was oversighted or whatever, and Facebook has all the money for all the lawyers. They have all of the legal power that they know that with this law they can do this still because it's not back to the legalese thing. They understand how those laws get interpreted to reality, and they can manipulate them once again. And then 10 years down the line, we'll hear Facebook's got legal loopholes, and it's like, yeah, there's loopholes because you don't know what the flip you're doing. You wrote laws and passed laws that had serious undersights or foresights or whatever, or they were apparently you can lobby every politician to be for the rich. Apparently that's a super easy thing. When they're all rich, they're all millionaires. But they're going to tell me I hate the rich. More than all the people they represent on average. And they don't even make that much money in there to get paid from the government. So how are they worth millions of dollars? That's besides. Like Nancy Pelosi's husband is loaded. He's loaded like tens and tens of millions of dollars. He's loaded, and she's worth a couple million herself.
Nancy Pelosi's husband, he's a shell corporation. Let's be honest.
Are you looking it up?
No, you want me to see their value? I can look up their value.
You could, but I'm just saying, like, it's the Orwell stuff again, man. Like, it's back to this. It's.
Honestly, I'm curious now.
But definitely, people will flee those states. I've probably said it at least 10 times on this program. I'm not a wizard. People so you're just it's called actually critical thinking. I believe is the skill we're exercising here. They're like, hey, if taxes, and we've worked it out, and people far brighter than I can mathematically tell you how that works. I encourage you to go look at them. I wish I knew somebody to trust right off the top of my head right now that you could go look up. But that's what we're talking about here. And we said it. 50 Cent made it mainstream in the pop culture, in the entertainment industry, and then it was digested through there. You know, we talked about it last week on the program. It's all feeding back into itself, man. This idea of like this ideology that you believe so strongly in, but then it corrupts the very foundations that you love, and you have to leave it. And then you do the same thing. Insanity is repeating the same mistake and expecting different results. And that is what liberalism has become. The idea of the modern liberalism.
So, just a quick jolt back real quick. I didn't check out
progressivism.
I didn't look back at Paul Pelosi, which is her husband, but it says at a minimum, Pelosi has $54 million in assets, $20 million in liabilities, and a net worth of about $34 million.
Nancy Pelosi herself.
Yeah, but I'm sure she made that fairly in the House of Representatives on her salary.
Yeah, I'm sure all of that money is in California, too, to have the super high tax rate that they're... Oh, she's probably a resident of D.C., ain't she?
Yeah. If
people didn't know...
Here's one of the headlines I said, hold on now, earlier to you. Headlines. Portland celebrates Biden win with illegal street racing. Crowds outside of ICE chanting, come out and fight. First of all, if I was ever running for governor or for president, mostly governor, because this would be a state thing, I would abolish speed limits. So the street racing thing doesn't bother me.
Quite frankly, I encourage street racing.
I would not only would I abolish the speed limits and make street racing legal, I would participate as governor of that state.
And no helmets on motorcycles.
No, I wouldn't make it a law, but you should definitely wear one. It's not my job to make you safe. If you don't want to wear a seatbelt or a helmet, that's your problem. But I would highly recommend you do so.
It's going to save so many lives. Why? Because you're like, you can steal money from me for not taking my life seriously.
Mm-hmm. That's going to save a lot of lives. But yeah, that's it. Again, it's just the thing. Like to get back to the other thing, you know, the violence and the rioting. I mean, they just won the election, right?
Yeah.
They're still rioting. So, but you know, maybe these people are just violent assholes.
Well, they were a myth, right? They're a myth.
What else is there to be said?
They come out of the woodwork. You know, they were a myth, and now they're like, oh my god, look at all these people gathering. Like, they haven't left. stopped rioting
It's like they're being funded.
for the election. Once they started having presidential debates, there was 0 fires. There was one more police shooting, but that didn't burn towns down. Wasn't it in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh? Or am I? No, I might be mixing up too. The last one, the guy was. I think he had like mental problems, or he was some kind of disabled.
That was Philly. That was Philly.
Oh, speaking of which, I love how they preach democracy, but this election literally hinged on 10,000 or 40,000 votes in one city. And then they're going to tell me about democracy. What it sounds like to me is that 40,000 people just dictated the other 300 million people what to do. That's what happened in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly take it that way, for sure.
No, that's what happened, right? That's literally what happened. The 4,000 votes in Philadelphia gave Biden enough, representatives in the college, the thing they hate. It helped them. They won. They actually ran this time. They didn't jack off like Hillary Clinton. Oh, terrible. During a pandemic, which is incredible in the first place, that they were able to do what they did, either candidacy.
Correct.
But they actually campaigned. They actually did things correctly, and it worked. But it came down to 40,000 votes. That sounds like democracy. It sounds a lot like democracy to me. That 40,000 people were able to outweigh everybody else. I thought the system you're bitching about that you want, you didn't even enforce. And you could argue that this is where the republicanism and representative constitutionalism and but this is why it's important that we have the system.
But what do you say in assuming all the votes, and there's a lot of investigation that's going to be done, but assuming all the votes were legitimate, it wasn't just 40,000 people in one city. I mean, Biden had over 70 million votes. So, do those votes matter too, right?
Of course they matter. Yes, but it's just like the value of their stock, right? They put stock in one thing. Like their value is always the popular vote. Fine. We can have that discussion. But like while we are having this discussion, let's look at Philadelphia. Like that's literally a prime example of why we have the electoral system the way we have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's what the news even said this. It came down to 40,000 votes in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, they were the last to really count since Pennsylvania took the worst possible approach at this out of any state. I'm not proud to say that as somebody who lives in Pennsylvania. It was a joke.
This has been talked about with Florida with the George Bush and Al Gore run was after that because there was a debacle there. I was quite young, so I don't really understand it all.
The old hanging Chad.
Yeah, but they cleaned up their election. That's why like Florida was called in like an hour.
Yeah,
like
Florida.
They knew. They're like, nah, dude, this is Trump. They knew.
Well, because they pre-counted their mail-in ballots and they didn't wait. They didn't say they can arrive late.
What a crazy.
If your vote wants to count, it has to get here at this time. And if it's not here, sorry, it's not getting counted.
Sorry, not sorry. Election, it shouldn't be easy to vote. I'm sorry, people. You should. And it's funny to me, too, that they bragged about how many people voted. Election numbers, all-time high, whatever it is. Because I can vote for a month. Whole month. And then you brag about it? This is like Obamacare. Look at all the people with health insurance. You forced me to buy it. And government, congratulations. These people, they cause a problem. They create a fake solution that's not going to work or half work or whatever. It might work. And then when they act as the saviors from their solution, like, yeah, good job, guys. Good job.
Well, we're going to see if Biden saves us from Obamacare because that was a debacle. I have 3 more headlines here. One of them I'm going to say for last because I think it is going to be the one that sets you off maybe the most. But I'm gonna jump into this one. Bush, this is George W. Bush, congratulates Biden, says election was fundamentally fair and its outcome is clear. Apparently George Bush did his own investigation on the entire state and recounted all the ballots himself. He was a busy man. I don't know. Is that just George Bush trying to be the higher road kind of guy?
Jeb Bush also had the same thing. I will actually read the screenshot, so forgive me for going dark here.
We still get a picture of Ryan when this happens, just so you know.
Oh, what, like my profile picture or
Yeah,
something?
you got some your transition shades on. I think.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
out on a
oh.
walk.
I don't know if that's a scarf or a mask.
It's a mask, hombre.
All right, nothing wrong with a scarf. I'm just saying.
Dude, I rock a scarf. I get made fun of. You know what I always tell people when they make fun of my scarf, especially a man? I always tell
Yeah.
them that their girlfriend loves it. And, yeah, that's the way it goes.
If
Let's see if I can find this. Where's Jeb Bush's lame ass, man? Jeb Bush, congratulations to President-elect Biden. I've prayed for our president most of my adult life. I will be praying for you and your success. Now it is time to heal the deep wounds. Many are counting on you to lead the way.
yeah,
The very people that sow seeds of discourse now tell us it's time to heal our wounds when they have explicitly, scientifically, and meticulously
yeah.
divided people for varieties of purposes on every single front on all sides of everything. And
Yeah.
then you're going to tell me we need to heal.
I will
You
say
make
this.
a mockery of our consciousness and our ability to critically think.
Deep down, what this really is it's all the globalists getting together and trying to pump each other up.
Yeah, the establishment, the swamp. Do you
Yeah.
remember when the news? This is my favorite part about this election. And it only took me maybe a minute after they said it to really realize what they meant. They said, now's the time to get back to normal.
Oh, okay.
You know what's great about normal, David? I'll tell you.
For we the people, not much.
I'll tell you what's great about normal, the old normal, the average politician. There was only a deep state under Trump. I'm sure the term deep state will fade away. I'm sure the term establishment Republicans and establishment Democrats will fade away. The term swamp will fade away and never exist. It will be the Loch Ness monster of the political landscape. It will be a thing that was talked about, referenced, seen a few times, and disappeared. The normal that they speak of is endless debt. It's endless wars. It's murdering people, whether that be black people by the police or Afghani children in drone strikes. It's backdoor deals while they fluff up their establishment buddies and cut trade deals with other countries so that they can help gut the wealth of our world while simultaneously telling us that we need to be ashamed of who we are because we were racist before and all these other things that they do to tear down America instead of people feeling proud about their country so they defend them against their bullshit policies that gut us of our wealth and our opportunities and our future. They do all of this at the same time while telling you that they're crafting the new normal with coronavirus, the new normal. They push that we're going back to normal, but we're in the middle of a transition to a new normal where I can't go in stores without having to be 6 feet with masks so I don't trust my neighbor when we're supposed to love thy neighbor. They've taken away handshakes, which has been a symbolic gesture of humankind for thousands of years as a form of trust. It started because they used to grab their forearms to make sure people didn't have a hidden knife in there, so they would stab them during a negotiation, which happened all the time in human history. Remember when we were savages murdering Indians? Anyways, sorry, back to the beginning. But the normal of gutting us of our civil liberties while unanimously telling us that it's for our protection, why we have war on terror, why we have paid television programming media that, quite frankly, sells us products. And the product is an idea that you buy and put on like a t-shirt. I'm a Republican today. I'm a Democrat. I'm a progressive. This fake individual thing that they've crafted, that they've made, this meticulous board that they put us in, these little labels. They tell you to be, don't follow labels. Don't let people tell you who you are. They tell you all that this is everything. All the media, all these corporations that are jacked into our subconscious through our everything. They tell us to not let things defy us. Well, they defy us politically, and then they gut us of everything that makes us an individual, while simultaneously telling us going into the new normal, we're going to have the old normal, apparently.
Yeah.
That's what hurt me the most. And you know what? Come.
You know what's
I'm not saying I've lost faith in the average American, but the problem I have with this election is it's The problem I have is there wasn't voting day. And just that there wasn't a voting day has caused so many other problems in our society. It's impeccable. And everything we're about to discuss after I'm done here, we're going to get with the actual election and kind of, we'll discuss that a little more. But that's steering this. Everything we're seeing is a lack of having a solid, integral, concrete plan for voting. And it's also funny to me, the new normal, right? The normal we're going into while simultaneously keeping the old one, apparently, because I'm going to have a politician who's a career politician worth millions of dollars. He's an average Joe, though. He's a million. I know Donald Trump, you could say the same thing, but if you look at fucking policy, it's helped you. It's helped his rich friends and him get wealthy too, but there's rungs there to that. This average Joe guy that was textbook politician that has been robbing us of every opportunity that we could have with bad principles, because these are not smart people. The average Joe candidate, it's a shrubbery, man.
Yeah. Well, I found it was interesting. I'm obviously not her biggest fan, but AOC came out recently. Somebody shared this in the chat and said that she literally wants to quit politics because of people like Nancy Pelosi. Now, I don't want to be too much boohoo for her because she came out and championed Joe Biden. But I think it's indicative of a bigger issue where these new people are coming up and they're not really having a say, despite kind of having a pretty big following. At the end of the day, the moderate establishment or I don't consider them moderate, but the establishment is coming out and they're stepping on the throats of these up and coming people.
Dude, they did to Bernie twice.
There's no room for change.
They did it to Bernie twice, and you support the party. You, Biden, national endorsement. It was all grassroots. Yeah, he's right. He knew with exit polling and all these other data and analytics and donations and everything else. And I've ridiculed Bernie probably harder than anybody else. But he's right. And you guys support that party? This is done. Like, not only will the GOP, I don't want to say the party's going to split and fracture, there's going to be more parties, but the political landscape is completely different. And the way they were so wrong with polling, every media outlet, all of them were wrong with polling to a degree that makes them irrelevant with any other poll they could ever come up with for the rest of their existence. Mainstream media needs to be physically bulldozed and removed financially, economically, spiritually. Every form of their influence on our lives needs to be uprooted and replaced with independent media.
Yeah, and that's what we're hoping for.
That's what we're hoping for. And it needs to happen before the next president. Because it's funny. It's so infuriating, man. Literally, I'm not a smart guy. I don't read a bunch of books. I listen to plenty of things, and I have plenty of conversations enough to have a little critical thinking skills. But one of the only real books that I've ever preached in my life is 1984, man. And when you can openly witness Orwellian propaganda or Orwellian trains of thought in real time in society, and people don't notice, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. This isn't a hard idea, and this is why not everybody should vote. Like, they pull games on you. They pull political mind tricks on you. They pull Jedi mind tricks. George Lucas puts it to you in a childhood movie. It's a Jedi mind trick to get you to vote for Joe Biden or believe these things that might not work for you. And everybody does it. Mm-hmm. But they talk about the Russian election meddling for years, but the media didn't meddle in our elections. At what level?
Absolutely.
Like, where are they responsible? If we can prove statistically, right? What was it? Did Facebook say that they bought bots, right? They ran bots and they cost hundreds of millions of dollars to do all this stuff, and all these other foreign actors right now, right? They spent all this money. Okay, how much money did CNBC cost, CNN or Fox News or these other outlets? How much money did they spend to swing elections and have election meddling? It's Orwellian.
I'd honestly, I'd love to see an investigation. I'd love to see a number.
figure out the numbers because they took Trump to court over this. They tried impeaching him as well for other things.
They did.
I'm sorry, they tried getting him removed from office. They did officially impeach him. It is an actual thing. Yes, they impeached him, tried removing him from office over stuff that, what did it turn out to, David? A nothing burger. All times.
Sure.
Isn't that election meddling? You cycled the same talking points for 2 years. Every Supreme Court justice that Donald Trump lawfully, constitutionally was allowed to pick got ripped apart, were called racist, and that they were going to overturn Roe v. Wade. And
racists and rapists.
Esteemed judges that have been on lists for decades and no speculation about them. And then this magical machine fires up. And back to your AOC point, AOC's, that's the swamp, homie. That's the problem. And young people, like, I don't like her policies, but dude, she's a progressive with a young following, motivated movers. And you know what? If anybody's, once again, I don't like her policies, but at least they're different ideas than the average Joe Biden politician that's been raping you. The old normal. We're going back to normal. The normal that hasn't worked for us. And that's why, remember those racist Republican rednecks that voted for a guy named Donald Trump who said he was going to drain the swamp, which he didn't really do, but he gave everybody the best numbers they've had in a while by every measurable government statistic. And those aren't numbers that he influenced. Those are independent government organizations.
Yeah.
But it's Orwellian. It's doublespeak, and we can't decipher it. Not everybody should vote, man.
No, definitely not. And I'd like to be the first to apologize because we were complicit in this as well because we meddled in New Zealand's election.
Hey, New Zealand, I'm not sorry.
You're welcome, by the way, if your person won, because we had a big push in that. I got two more. Left. I feel like I should end on this one because I want to read a little bit of the article too, but at the same time, I know this last one is going to get you going. So, do you want me to get you going more, or do you want me to read this little bit and let you settle down for a second?
I think I've been on fire this whole time, Dave.
Not that this will settle you down.
I got to level with you. I felt like I've been on fire this whole time. Give me the softball so I can crank the next one.
All right. Headlines / article. I'm going to read the whole thing. Not the whole thing, but just a little snippet that caught my attention. The headline is, "What Trump's 4 years taught me about the two white Americas." This is John Blake from CNN. The headline, it reeled me into the article, and I went, I want to see where he's going with this. "Many scoffed when President Trump declared that he's done more for black people than any other president since Abraham Lincoln. But as I contemplate the end of Trump's presidency, I realize that he has set millions of black Americans free in at least one disturbing way." This is a CNN report, by the way, non-biased news.
Trusted, esteemed journalist to bring people together.
He has
unite.
He has freed us of any illusions we may have had about a certain segment of white America. Illusions of white America, he says. "Even though Joe Biden won this election, black America has lost some measure of hope." And I thought, well, wait a minute, here we go. But don't worry, he doesn't follow up with that. "It was heartening to see so many white people dancing in the streets Saturday after Biden's victory was announced. But the fact that a president who is widely viewed as a racist can still command so many white votes." So basically what he's saying is even though Biden won, it's sinister that a racist like Donald Trump got so many white people to vote for him. And the article goes on after that, but that first little bit there, let's be clear what we're saying here in case people don't know. And we talked about this, and this is part of why the media is so disturbing, what they can do. But right now we're in a place where the media is championing the fact that Trump is out of office because he was a filthy racist, he was homophobic, he was misogynist, and all these things. Joe Biden, historically, he was anti-gay. He was very against gay marriage for a very long time. He was a segregationist. He was against civil rights. He was for the Iraq War. He was for the Patriot Act. He is the worst candidate. If you're a classic liberal, you should hate Joe Biden to his core. But people say, well, it was a moral victory. It was moral. They at least they got the moral high ground. Joe Biden is a pedophile, and he has a crack addicted son who they schemed together to get power grabs for their own family from places like China in exchange for favors. And I think investigations are gonna come out, and they're gonna show this is a lot deeper than they think. Joe Biden is not the moral candidate here.
How can he be the moral candidate when we're going back to normal, when the normal has been jacking with the American people for centuries, decades rather?
Well, right. Well, I mean, we got systemic racism, right? Isn't this the big thing? We have systemic racism.
Yeah. Well, how to get there?
For
50 years, David? How did it get there?
Did it just get there over the last 4 years? Did it just get put in place?
It's weird. It's like
Joe Biden's crime bill had nothing to do with it.
Mandatory minimums, zero.
This is not a moral victory. There's no moral high ground here. You did not pick the higher moral character. If you want to attack Donald Trump's moral character, I get it. It's fair. But don't claim you have the more moral, the higher standard of character in Joe Biden. He's a disgrace.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I said it under Trump too, and what I meant by it was like I did kind of miss how Obama was more like professional about being president, right? Because it didn't make it seem like everything was so crazy, you know, but like what Trump did obviously is interject reality TV and entertainment into politics,
mm-hmm.
Which is why it was all spun up and the media ate it up because all their ratings are up because everybody's watching this crazy guy that's on fire, like literally on fire himself, and then like everything else is on fire because of everything else, like and yeah, so all their ratings are up and they're able to just like keep this steam going, and then you're telling us we're just gonna flip a switch, you know, like I reminisced and dabbled in that, but it's like I almost wonder, right, like revolutions aren't easy. And I'm not saying Trump was a revolution against the system or anything, because you could argue the swamp thing and, you know, the debt and other things. But like the idea that like it's going to be easy to change this system, especially when they talk about, I'll use their talking points. You know, I'm not even going to go with the right's talking points. Systemic racism, the gender gap myth, the gender wage gap, access to healthcare. Okay. So like, those are your arguments, and that's what you want. But the system can't. The system gave you those problems, and we're going back to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, you know, and once again, they're fleeing their states. You know, like I don't know, in droves, like that one article about the tax plan. We might see an exodus of some places. You know, and that could be. They said in New York State, people are leaving because of the weather. It does get super cold here. Old people do leave. Sure. All the time. I get it. That's plausible. But let's look at economic policy. You know, I know people that moved out of here personally because of the politics here and nothing else. There's been high profile, you know, people in media that have moved. I'm not going to reference them, but we talked about them. They've moved from their states to go to a different state. You know, but don't bring your garbage, the policies that brought that place down, don't bring them here. You know, and if we can't have the political discourse, then you're just gonna gut every state.
Yeah. So, lastly, here, I gotta say, this is not related, but I get.
Oh, hold on, David, real quick. And back to him saying that like it's white people that got Donald Trump elected. Yeah, probably he does probably get the most swing of the vote. But how about we talk about how Florida was swayed because of the Cuban and Latino vote?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know how they break that down though? I was watching this on the news and this made me mad. So with every like group, they just kind of break it down like, oh, black people, you know, they're supporting people on the left and white people are supporting the racist Republicans, and this is how this goes. And then when it came down to Latinos, they're like, wow, Trump's doing really well with Latinos. Well, instead of saying that, they said, well, not really Latinos, just Cubans. I was like, well hold on a moment. because they're overwhelmingly supporting President Donald Trump in the election, that we're going to revoke their Latino badge. Isn't this the same as Joe Biden? If you don't vote for me, you're not black.
I have a pen and a phone. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. What we should do is we should send double-sided toothbrushes to every politician in Congress and all the way up the ladder. And we'll send them a note and says, since you talk out of both sides of your mouth, maybe you should clean the bullshit out first.
You can do it.
Yeah, I don't know how you can blame white people. You can just like we sent grass seed to Albany for King Cuomo fix his lawn.
I told somebody at work about that because he's from Rochester. He thought that was hilarious, and it was hilarious. Tore their land up.
I would have loved to give that to him personally, but he was out of town for that day.
Shocker.
Sick day.
I wonder why. Probably got a UPS notification. He was getting 300 tons of grass seed.
You know what's probably jacked up too? They probably just like threw that stuff out and then the state paid for it to get it done anyways.
It's probably accurate. It's probably 100% true. We can't use this grass seed.
Dude, it'd be like you donating bottled water. They dump it out and then go buy bottled water. Like that's what they did.
Real quick, because I just looked at my phone to get to my last headline here, and Parler, I gotta tell you, it's kind of, their notification system's a lot better. And we're getting a lot of notifications about how people are choosing to follow us on Parler, so that's cool.
I'm going to hit on something I heard, and these emerging medias, we need to use these because what happens is since there's such few people there, like in all these other ones we use, it's saturated, right? There's thousands and millions of interactions. But on a Parler or a LinkedIn, since there's less people there, like when you post, even though there's only 500 people there, 500 people will see them instead of 5 million people being there and only 5 people see it on Instagram.
Well, and the other thing I'm looking forward to is on Facebook, and I kind of shared a little insight on this. We didn't go into super big detail. I kind of can. Maybe we'll do it in a future video. But right before the election, our posts, which typically, let's say on average, 3,000 to 5,000 people see our posts. We were having posts with like 300 people, 200 people that were viewing the actual post, and they give you this data. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what's going on. The day after Biden was nominated or declared president-elect by the media and no one else, our post count went right back up.
Oh, it's weird.
I'm sure it's a coincidence, and I'm sure there's nothing.
It's got to be the New Zealand interference, David.
Maybe that was our punishment for changing the election in New Zealand. Hopefully, we don't have to go to court there for all this New Zealand election interference that we were complicit in. But speaking of
those would be expensive legal fees.
Speaking of other countries, this is the headline. This might be my favorite one I've had for a while, just because I know. Headlines. Coronavirus lockdown in Greece requires people to text authorities before leaving home.
Come on.
Yeah. You're unfortunately I cannot hear you. Got no sound from you. Oh.
Am I back in black?
You're back in black.
Mother may I. Hey, Dave, let me ask you a question. Do you think that would happen?
Whoa. Before you ask me a question, have you texted for approval?
How do we think this is okay?
Well, let me tell you.
Hold on. So, normal, I thought, Dave, right? But there's a new normal, and this is the new normal?
Yeah, we're going to mix the new normal with the old normal.
The people that have been raping me for for decades, for nearly every facet of my life, the new normal, I'm going to let them mold this ball of clay. Dude, The new normal should be crafting by artists, creators, the comedians, the podcasters, the people with passion, the people that write books, the people that do science. The new normal needs to be crafted by people in the world we live that drive sectors, businessmen. Those are the people.
So,
Jeff Bezos needs to be the guy helping make the new normal. Elon Musk, get that. Why? I gotta text my government to leave my house. What if I don't text my government to leave my house? Can I leave my house? What will you do? What lengths will you come and do physical harm to me because I didn't ask my granny state permission to go get some milk? And then I'd love to know, if they are going to come and cause me violence, what happens if I reciprocate violence in response? Because you have violated literally civil laws, David. Civil laws that have been around for hundreds of European years of history that literally have laid the foundation for every Western government, which was initially started in Greece, coincidentally, with the freaking ancient Greece and their ideas of democracy that has blossomed in the West. So the very place where it was created, how symbolic. New normal to me. They hijacked democracy, people. They sold you a product. They sold you democracy as a product. And apparently that product requires you to wear masks and ask questions before you can do anything. Because that's what freedom is.
Yeah.
The Magna Carta, all these laws. I saw a thing. It was a conspiracy link, but he put up the actual thing in the Magna Carta. There can be no law that against the basics of the Magna Carta, and any law that says I have to ask my government or leave my house or all these things. Once again, this has been talked about here too. If you're outside, the only reason they go after the businesses with the masks is because they can't get you individually. They can't force you to wear a mask in America. They know it. They know it's against the law, civil law. And
we're going to see.
In Greece and every stuff, we'll see what lawsuits come out, or we'll see people, or we're going to see how this happens. But it goes against literally what it means to have freedom from your government. Like all of the basic foundations that have separated power from people and authority, we're giving this up in the new normal to have the old normal back.
Yeah. And let's talk about a while back when coronavirus was really first hitting. We were talking about the mask thing. And I've always said, I will, on my own choosing, I will wear a mask because I feel like, depending on the style of mask and things like that, scientifically, I am keeping other people a little bit safer if I wear a mask. And I choose to do so. But I have always been against a mask mandate in the same way I'm against a vaccine mandate. And it's not that I'm anti-vaxxer. I just believe in people's free will. And I know you've kind of taken that path too. And we've taken some heat for that because, well, don't you care about people's safety? And, really, how is this an infringement on your freedom? And it's not really that big of a deal. You need to calm down. But what people don't realize is slippery slopes. It's a common phrase. And the slippery slope of big tech censoring an article here or there, the slippery slope of banning somebody from your platform
for hate speech, which isn't even a defined thing.
Might not seem like a real thing. Might not seem like a big deal, if it's a certain person. It's like, okay, well, obviously that guy, sure. But again, the slippery slope. Now we have White House officials being banned for sharing New York Post articles. And the slippery slope of the mask thing is now people in Greece have to text their government to make sure they can leave their house. It's a very, very dangerous thing to.
And the slippery slope goes further when big tech companies like Apple and Android, they have now made the systems for contact tracing and put them in your cell phones. Sure. So they've already greased the skids. And now coronavirus will just be the Trojan horse for everything. Sure. Any kind of lockdown, school shooting, maybe, whatever. They'll be able to contact trace you for everything. The flu, like whatever they want.
I was just gonna say, just to put you on record, you don't think this stops with coronavirus, correct?
No.
Right?
If I was a betting man,
there's no way.
If I was a betting man, I would bet that this goes forever for the rest of humanity. They will contact trace us as long as we are complacent as long as we don't make laws against it.
And it's not just going to be coronavirus. It's going to be the flu or whatever version
And
of the flu comes along. I guarantee it. We'll flash back to this in a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. I guarantee that's what's going to happen.
And to go a step further, they implement this stuff outside of the law.
Sure.
Like, there is no law that says Apple has to make contacting tracing information abilities on your smartphone. They did it anyways.
Right.
So now that capitalism took over for them, the very people that censor people have now created a tool to track you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to say it's for everybody else's good because they have abolished the thought of the idea of the individual. I'll go back to what you were saying about the mask and everything else. And people have problems saying that you're not keeping other people safe. Your safety is only your individual responsibility. Why are we entrusting so much of our own survival, our basic survival needs, whether it be economically or anything else? That's what's so powerful about opening up your own business. You're not dependent on other people.
Because there's a study that showed people are dying because of lockdowns. But we're gonna ignore that.
And flipped as well, just so you know. They said that lockdowns do more economic and mental harm to people than if we were to just let the illness kind of run through. And that's the sold out.
We're supposed to ignore that, though.
By the way, unelected, right? Outside of law. Listen to the UN outside of law. We just agree on treaties with other people that don't share our values, basically. Like, why forget you?
Mm-hmm.
And then we can tie it into one thought. One thing I saw, Biden said that he's going to go back and undo all of Trump's executive actions and everything. Whoa. I thought he was going to be a leader and bring us together.
Yeah.
I'm sure out of all those executive orders, there's good ones. Why don't we talk about the good ones? If you want to bring people together, instead of just getting rid of these, what can we do? Where can we compromise? But that's not going to happen. It's also not going to happen. It's also not going to happen legislatively because it's not going to be possible because they lost the majority of that. The Senate is still Republican. It looks like the House is going to stay. There's going to be runoff elections in January in a couple states, but it looks like the Republicans are going to hold on. They got the Supreme Court.
I will say this just for the facts. Let the facts fall where they may. Joe Biden will have, if he's president, he will have constitutional authority to undo executive orders. That's an actual thing. To your point, you're going to undo all of them just because they were done by Trump. Have you seen some of them? Do you know which ones you're going to undo? You're going to undo all of them because you just feel like you have to, or there's none that you agree with at all. I mean, it seems interesting that's a guy who's supposed to bring everybody together. That's his approach.
Yeah, and we can argue that Trump did Obama's and stuff. He has the power, but he didn't run on bringing people together. He ran on no, we need to tear everything down. Tear everything down. He ran that really look, we got to go punch these guys back. We got to hit them in the nose. We got to say the things that don't want to be said, basically. And that's what riled his base and China virus and all these other stupid things, fake news and all these anecdotal things. That's all gravitate to. But he never ran as the great collector, the great bringer, the great bridge builder.
But the weird thing is in 2016, that's exactly what he did. I mean, he brought these people who were the traditional, blue collar Democrats. He brought them into his base.
Success brings unity, doesn't it?
Is that not bringing people together? Did he divide them away?
Success brings unity. It's amazing what money can do to people. And that's why we got Middle East peace deals, because people are seeing the other side of it, the economic value of it, which I'm scared. Honestly, I'm not going to have hyperbole here and try to jack things up. But honestly, out of anything, I'm worried about the Middle East peace deals falling through, and we'll go back to wars and, once again, business as usual in the new normal.
The old normal.
The old new normal. That should be the name of this podcast. The old new normal.
We can make that happen. I know a guy.
Or spaghetti election. I also like. But yeah, going forward in the old new normal, I'm scared about that and the economy.
Yeah. Well, speaking on hyperbole, you said you don't want to speak on hyperbole. I will speak in hyperbole. If the peace deals fall through under President Biden, Biden voters have blood on their hands. And I'll say it very bluntly. It will be your responsibility that people died in the Middle East.
Yeah, because we were getting out of it. Or we were going to start. They didn't talk about it for 20 years. Finally got done. The start, like the real actual in ink start of it. And it could have happened under any presidency. That's not what it's about. It's just the fact that it's happened, and now that we have a this would be like you going to the nail salon and that one girl you really like, or the hair salon, they really cut your hair the way you like. You want to go there every time. Then next time you go there, oh, she got fired. Like, wait, what? So, like, I wonder if that's what, like, some of these countries will feel with a new administration taking over these helms when Jared Kushner and, who they had set up for these deals. I'm sure that will play into it a little bit, but hopefully, diplomacy prevails. But how do I know the diplomacy won't just sell the guts of my country to other people?
Old normal. Old new normal.
Old new normal. I have one headline.
We're not done. More headlines.
And it's not like an actual real headline. It's just something I want to highlight and kind of hijack back into everything. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so late headline here. Kamala Harris, first woman, black, South Asian American vice president.
Yes, it's a major day for black South Asian Americans.
Great.
Black women, South Asian Americans.
I'm glad we're checking boxes here.
She's breaking through all types of glass ceilings.
David, I thought America was this horrible place that holds down people of color and women in particular.
Ryan, I thought gender wasn't a real thing. It was a concept of the mind.
Yeah, well, apparently her mind was made up that she's a woman today. And how come if gender is a social construct, how come race isn't a social construct?
No.
Considering they put both social constructs next to each other, because there's only one human race, right? It's not like there's two different. We're all Homo sapiens. Scientifically, the party of anti-science.
Yeah, you're just anti-science, Ryan. That's why you don't believe about gender on the spectrum.
Even though men make women through a Y chromosome, which doesn't come from women.
That sounds like conspiracy.
Sounds like
talk.
a men hierarchy, though. I'm told. My point with the headline here is for a country that's so crappy, I'm glad that we have multi-ethnic, very specific regional, certain sex people able to be the most powerful people in the world. Barack Obama, most powerful guy in the world, was a black guy.
Ryan, just out of curiosity, do you know how much the VP makes?
The president makes like $250, right, or $300 or something.
Oh, it's over $400 now.
All right, so I'm gonna say the VP makes like $250 a year.
Curious, I've never actually looked this up.
It would put her in the 1 percentile of wealth in America. Because if people don't know, to be a 1 percenter in America, you only need to make like $180,000.
I love this number so much.
For personal income.
$235,100. That sounds like a woman is making a lot less than a man. Shouldn't she make the same as Joe Biden?
She's not the president, David. They don't do the same job.
No.
Her job is
Don't look at the specifics. The woman is making less than the man.
Her job
wage gap.
To do what she's told. Okay,
no,
so I wonder will it be racist when Biden's like, "Hey, Kamala, how about you go handle that? Like, go wash the dishes, basically. Go wash the political dishes."
I think "go wash the political dishes" is my favorite quote of all time.
That should be the meme for this.
Go wash
Okay.
Hey, Kamala, go wash those political dishes. I'm Joe Biden.
We should actually cut a meme of this.
I'm your
president. The political dishes will be like handling like the BLM riots and like these little snow cones that you can lick on, these very little things that don't matter. Go wash political dishes.
Old new normal.
Old new normal, my friend, in this spaghetti election.
Just like the old days. Good Lord.
Yeah, I told a person. He's like, I'm so happy I have faith in Americans. I was like, oh, because we're going back to the old normal that we just murder people, record debt, robbing of civil liberties, smashing of our future through this. He's like, dude, can you give me a day at least? It's like, no,
No, I will
you
not.
want the normal.
Your feet will be held to the fire, my friend.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, we're building an Autobahn there, yo.
No speed limits under Governor Corn. Just letting you know.
I'll never run for public office.
I'm not saying I will or won't. I'm just
But I'm
saying.
still going to be a governor.
I'm just saying, if I was governor, no speed limits.
I'll just get a commune. That's what I'll do. You don't got no laws here that can touch me. All right, so I got an idea here. I think that's all the points I really have to make, but I think we should just summarize in totality of what is going on with the election quick as a good bookmarker. Okay. Biden is elected, the president-elect.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go through the courts. There's going to be recounts.
Sure.
Trump has filed the lawsuits. It's all starting.
Mm-hmm.
The election's not over technically until, Trump's still president until the 20th or 21st of January. There's plenty of time. I figure I wouldn't be surprised if they buried this in the Christmas or New Year's time stretch to keep us distracted buying PlayStations and Xboxes and iPhones for each other, that they do whatever they're going to do. So, yeah, there's plenty of time, and we're going to have to wait. The counts, me personally, this is my personal prediction. Joe Biden will be president. The recounts will only help him. And I don't think there's this large influx of these fake ballots. And I'm going to take their words out of their mouth and use them against them. Every vote does matter. You're absolutely right. I want every vote that was cast legally to matter. But that's what we're here to figure out. So let's figure out the legal votes, count those ones. We've talked before that voting day should be voting day. That's my main takeaway from this election is we need to tighten that up in the American system. So we don't have, like the Russians, talked about this a little earlier, but the Russians, the Iranians, the Chinese, all these other foreign actors that we all jack in each other's elections, they're rubbing their hands together right now. They have helped sow the seeds of dissidence. They've helped sow the seeds that half the country doesn't believe the results of what the other half of the country said. And that's what they do. That's what, when they talk about election meddling, they did it this time. They did it last time. But this time, they got their real goal, which was to create and sow dissidence and make people not believe in the institutions of our government. We need to tighten this up. And if the old new normal wasn't going to do it, I don't know what will. Because we can't compromise. That's why there's the splits in the House. That's why there's the splits in the Senate. That's why the presidency is going to be a lame duck. Obviously, you have the guy, but you have no way to get stuff to the guy because there's a divide, which has been brought on by all these other things we talked about today. So, yeah, I think the recounts are only going to help Biden. He's going to be president, but let's count the legal votes. Let's make it matter. And, as far as the old new normal and bringing people together, I'm not going to hold my breath, man. It was because of Barack Obama that Donald Trump was elected, and it's because of Donald Trump that Joe Biden was elected. So I just summarized, a decade plus a little bit, 12 years of politics.
Well, here's what's going to happen, and it's almost less about this election as it is more about the next election. This election... listen, they're going to do investigations. They will find actual coronavirus. They will find actual cases of fraud, but it will not be enough to overturn the election. Joe Biden will be the next president. I will not be shocked if any of that is true. But we talked about slippery slopes earlier, and let's talk about this slippery slope. People are saying that the mail-in ballots, the mail-in voting was only done because of coronavirus. And I'm telling people that in 4 years, we can go back and watch this tape. There will be mail-in balloting just like there was with or without viruses. The coronavirus was the excuse to run the election the way they wanted to run the election. And in 4 years, whether coronavirus is a major threat or not, You were going to see mail-in balloting just like we saw this year. It's going to be it's the new normal.
It's the old new normal.
And the no vote campaign, I really hope it takes off here, but let's be super clear about what happened here. They used mail-in balloting to, I called it earlier, I called it a coup. Listen, if you're a relatively healthy young person and you were too scared of the sniffles to go vote in the election, I'm sorry, I don't think your vote should count. Now, it will count, and it is what it is. Pennsylvania, like I said, they had this terrible system. Those people who voted the night of the election and postmarked it before the very next day, Pennsylvania considers it a legal vote. I don't blame those people necessarily. I blame Pennsylvania, but again, I think if in 4 years we're going to look back, we're not going to see any change. It's going to be all about mail-in balloting again. Maybe even more so. Maybe it's going to be beyond mail-in balloting. Maybe we're going to start using technology to vote. I wouldn't be shocked to see this.
And this has been brought up as like a good thing, more people involved. The problem is most people, they're involved with the selection, but they're not involved with the education behind the selection.
But don't worry, I assure you our elections are safe. That's what we
you try convincing us of Russian elections and all this other things, but then there's no election meddling. But you spent millions of dollars to try to prove that they helped Trump get elected. Both sides of their mouth, man.
Yeah, no, mail-in balloting is going to be the new normal, and beyond that, at some point, people will be voting from their phones. I would not be shocked.
Yeah, and extrude further on that point, David. I mean, there's been plenty of people on all sides. I know the news has said it too, but they kind of said the same thing as far as let's count the votes, let's count them legally and stuff. There is some people out there that are like, let's take this, but the big thing, once again, to the media, to their credit, they are saying there's no widespread proof of voter fraud, which is the language. Once again, this is all legalese, people. The terms are important because that's how they define the argument. So, widespread voter fraud is what they're listing. Even if the problems are, well, dead person or lost ballot, improper ballot, whatever is underneath there that would actually be an invalid ballot, it is still not their argument, which is widespread voter fraud. So that's how they can demyth this. That's how they can use their fact check to debunk things, even though there is validity there's a skeleton to this argument. They're just, the flesh of their argument is something that may not be able to be replicated with proof, because there is probably we both agree there's not going to hundreds of thousands of votes that sway.
No, it's not going to be enough to sway the election, in my opinion.
And I think
there will be cases for sure. Guaranteed.
For sure. But let's say 0.1%, which is a lot. So let's tighten up. But let's say it's 1,000 ballots went bad, or I think Biden will get more votes out of it, though, for real, because I could see it going that way. Because once again, we're the whole mail-in. Yeah, there's plenty to learn from this for America. But people did their duty. They thought they went and pulled the trigger. We said it last week. It doesn't stop at Election Day, and especially for the Democrats, because they can't get anything passed without executive action or some other out of the legislature means to try to get policy put through. I mean, that's all they can do because of the way things are looking projected. Once again, terms are important to them because that's how they define their argument to fact check you. But I mean, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what we're gonna do, but we're gonna see some stuff in these parties, in this presidency, and everything. Whether it be the progressives flee, the libertarians kind of gravitate. There's been talk about Trump running as a third-party libertarian candidate in 2024. There's gonna be lots of flux in the political landscape come January, because we're going back to the old new normal, and that's not going to be okay with some people. Yeah, I agree with you as far as the voting by phone and stuff. They've been trying this. They're going to get 16-year-olds to vote. They're going to do anything they can to, they want to pack the courts, mail-in ballot, and all these other things. This is packing the election. So they want to tear down all the fundamental systems of America. They've admitted it, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget though. I think even bigger than that. I think this election is specifically going to be set up as a catalyst for change to allow to introduce technology into voting. I would not be shocked in the slightest. In fact, I will go on record and say I'm predicting that's the case.
I don't doubt it. That's how they sold us the Patriot Act was, a couple buildings falling over. Even though that's a tragedy, well, we're facing a pandemic that is a tragedy, and yep. And once again, there's going to be short foresight because they're just scrambling to print a bill so that it seems like they've done something, But stay tuned, man. I mean, keep it locked. We'll be here every week for it.
Yeah. Follow us on all the ways you can possibly follow us.
Yep.
Facebook,
We're now
Instagram, YouTube, and now Parler. And you can follow myself on Twitter, even though I don't really tweet that often. You could if you want to.
Yeah,
you can follow
me at Wallace Laughs on all platforms.
I don't know. I legitimately how little I use Twitter. I would have to go on Twitter to find out what my handle is.
Yeah, I made all my stuff, like all my pictures and everything I uses all the same. My Instagram, my Twitter are the same handle. Photographs are all the same. I've put it all uniform so that I can just promote it all at once on every platform.
See, you're using the Apple method of security, where it's all on one, and I'm using the Android method, where everything's different and chaos. Chaos. You can't hack me. You hack my Parler. You still didn't hack anything else.
So yeah, you wanna put a bow around this fancy thing we just created here?
Yeah.
All right. This has been a product of December 1773. If you enjoy the content, share the content. Stay locked to the channel. Follow us on all major platforms, including now Parler. I am your host, Ryan, and always with me in the Bat Cave is Dave.
Oh, can't. I don't think you can say that.
Just
Bat Cave.
They don't know.
Bat Cave is very likely copyrighted.
We'll figure out. Star Central Command. Behind the flashing keyboard.
I could take that. What do you do with it? That's
I didn't mean it to degenerate there at the end there, people.
No,
but
no.
yes,
See, you're copyright infringing, and that means we're probably meddling in foreign elections, and now we can't share this video either.
It's the only realistic explanation. So yeah,
sorry again, New Zealand.
Stay locked to the channel. Appreciate everybody watching. If you stuck around, thank you, David. I'll talk to you throughout the week, and I'll see you for the next one.
Sounds good. I will see you then, and I'll see. Oh, what are you about to say? You're gonna alienate all our Seattle fans.
Go Bills.
Nobody's from Seattle's watching this show.
I don't want to meddle in the Seattleans' preference on football teams.
I like it. I will see you later, and we will see everybody next week, Monday at 7.
All right, man. I'll see you later, you foreign election meddler.
See ya. See you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.